from the News Channel 5 network. This is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5 political analyst Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. 3 public hearings have been held, and it appears several more are still to come for the House Select Committee. That's the group that's been investigating the January 6th takeover of the U.S. Capitol. It was an effort the committee says was a coup and an attempt to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. How are the sessions being received by those looking at the public? Is it getting the public's attention? Besides reporting its findings, what does the committee hope to accomplish? And what impact will all this have on American politics, especially the upcoming 2020 midterm elections? To help sort all that out, as well as look at other related issues, we welcome back to Inside Politics again this week MTSU Professor Dr. John Weil, who's also the Dean of the Honors College down there. Dr. Weil, thank you again for joining us on the program. It's great to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
House Republicans early this week dismissed the hearing, saying it's all old news. The American public has moved on. But that first primetime hearing a week ago on Friday, or Thursday rather, it got great. 20 million people watched it. That's a pretty big number. Are these committee hearings beginning to resonate with the American people?
Well, and it's not, I think so, but I think there are going to be some people who are already convinced that, what happened is a travesty, and there are going to be others for whom Trump can do no wrong. But, elections are often determined not by those on the far right or the far left, but by those in the center. And I think there are enough people who are uncertain or, persuadable that it could have an impact.
Do you see a historical connection here? When the Watergate hearings began about 50 years ago, a little less than 50 years ago, although this is the actual anniversary week of the actual break-in, the American people, many people and many Republicans thought that Watergate was a third-rate burglary, as Ron Ziegler put it. But and it went on during the hearings, particularly with Howard Baker and others being involved. By the time those hearings were over, there was different feeling about Richard Nixon and what happened with Watergate. Are we sort of seeing a little bit of that going on, perhaps, with what went on January 6th?
Yes, but of course the big difference is that Trump is not now in office. And to some extent, these committee hearings, we didn't have nearly as much information then, but particularly the second set of impeachment hearings, there's a good bit of overlap between, we know more, but between those hearings and this. So it's not quite as, the main consequence of this is not so much do we agree that Trump did right or wrong, but what are the implications for future elections, and particularly for 2024? Now,
Fox News has been interesting to watch on this. They boycotted the first set of hearings. They didn't carry any of it all, even didn't have any commercials for those 2 hours to kind of keep their audience hostage. But on Monday, they went back to doing live gavel-to-gavel coverage. What changed Fox's mind?
Well, part of it may be the audience, but I suspect, for one thing, it makes them look a little bit more impartial, right? We are actually carrying something, that seems to be dissing someone that we like. But I think the other is, I know in my case, when I was watching, I believe on CNN, but I lingered for another half an hour or so to sort of listen to the commentary. And if you're already on a station, it gives them a chance to, to put an interpretation or a spin on what happened.
But Fox carrying it is important because this committee is trying to reach out to Trump supporters and Republicans who watch that channel to get them to pay attention to what they're doing, even the way they're doing the committee hearings. There's not just Democrats making these charges about the president, but some of the testimony, most all the testimony is coming from Trump's inner circle, coming from his former attorney general, even from his own family.
Yes, no, I think that's, there are far more Republicans who, and of course, Republicans were the ones who were on the inside, so that makes sense. But for many years, Bill Barr was sort of the epitome of the Trump administration. Some people think he got converted here a little bit late, and maybe the same could be said of Pence. But in the end, they did seem to have a line that they were unwilling to cross, even for the president.
These committee sessions have been different. I've never seen congressional hearings quite like this. Is this made, or this packaged for television type hearing? A lot of videos. Is this working? Are we going to see new congressional hearings in the future?
They've probably interviewed more people for these hearings than they have probably for any other that they've had. So that may be part of it. There's been some criticism as the committee hearing started that the committee was acting more like a prosecutorial committee than it was an investigatory committee. But as I've listened, I think what is happening is, the primary purpose of congressional hearings is generally understood to be for the possibility of legislation. But I think the primary purpose of this hearing seems to be more to educate the American public.
There have been some glitches this week for the committee. I mean, first, one witness was supposed to testify on Monday, couldn't make it because his wife went into labor. He's President Trump's former campaign manager in 2020.
Yes.
Then on Wednesday, the whole session was canceled for reasons that seemed to not be very clear, and there was conflicting information coming out from the committee. What's that all about?
Well, I guess the woman in labor, something probably couldn't have been controlled, and had the committee insist that he come, I think there would have been quite a bit of kickback from that. I'm not sure about the hearing that was canceled, other than you're right, the committee seems to be incorporating, a lot more video testimony rather than direct testimony.
Well, usually
that takes longer.
Usually you would think those kind of video things would be done well in advance. There was some concern that perhaps the staff was being overworked to do it. Is this a sign that the committee's probably still trying to debate among themselves what videos to show and how to show them?
Maybe. And, the other possible division in the committee, and it seems to have died down a little bit, but at one point there seemed to be a discrepancy between the chairman saying, we don't plan to recommend anything to the Justice Department in terms of prosecution, and then Cheney saying, well, hold on, we haven't really decided that yet.
Dr. John Weil, MTSU political science professor, and also the dean of the Honors College, there's our guest. We're talking about the second week of the hearings involving the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. Back to continue our conversation with Dr. Weil after this break.